back again, I use my back against the wall. Never caught on y'all, never count on y'all, always count on y'all.
Yeah, this is really close.
He's done miracles on me.
Here it is, on the way, and the Denver Broncos
He's done miracles
have won
on
it in
me.
overtime.
He's done
He's the
miracles
only
on
guy
me.
in the league that when they win, he's
He's
an
done
all-time legend,
miracles
and when they
on me.
lose, even when it's because of his
He's done
mistakes,
miracles
it's got to be
on
someone
me.
else's fault.
When do we start the Josh Allen franchise?
What do you mean?
He's done miracles
They get up on
me.
ESPN every single week and they say Josh Allen.
Josh Allen has already arrived in Cancun for off-season
He's
vacation
done
after
miracles
yesterday's loss to the
on me.
Broncos.
It's gonna crush Bills fans even more because when
He's
Josh
done
Allen gets eliminated by
miracles
someone
on
other than
me.
Mahomes, Buffalo Bills fans are gonna have the most excuses.
He's
If you're a
done
Buffalo Bills fan
miracles
watching
on
this,
me.
I'm sorry, bro. Josh Allen should be able to win it,
He's
but he
done
fucking won't.
miracles on me. He's done miracles on me.
So Josh Allen lost in the playoffs last week, which is something I did predict. And if you watch this channel at all, you know I'm a big Josh Allen hater. And it's not even because I dislike Josh Allen, because if I was going to be completely honest with you, his playstyle is very appealing to me as a fan of Cam Newton back in the early 2010s. But it's his fans that make it fucking exhausting. And with that being said, I am a Lamar Jackson fan. So this video might be very biased, but if you maybe listen to me and hear out my perspective, even if you're the biggest Josh Allen fan, even if you're the biggest dumbass, even if you're a terrorist, even if you're my wife's boyfriend, which is all things I hate, you might be able to find some common ground with me and you might be able to agree. So with that being said, whoa, hold on. If you don't want to be a sex offender like Deshaun Watson, like, comment, subscribe, and let's get into this video. So first off, when we're discussing Josh Allen versus Lamar Jackson discourse, because I'm talking about their career in total, I'm going to start off with college football. And first we're going to start off with Lamar Jackson's freshman year, which is in 2015. He had a 54% completion percentage. He had 1,840 yards, 12 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. To go along with this, he also had 960 rushing yards, 11 touchdowns, averaged 80 yards rushing per game, and led the 2015 Louisville Cardinals to an 8-5 record. And not to mention, Lamar Jackson played at a Power 5 school, unlike Josh Allen, which we are getting to, where he played at Wyoming. And in Josh Allen's first year even getting a star at Wyoming, he had a 66% completion percentage. He only completed 4 passes for 51 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. But this really isn't fair if you consider that Josh Allen really didn't even play. But when we get into 2016, this is where the stats get better for each player. I mean, it can't get much worse for Josh Allen. I mean, he completed 4 passes. So worse than that would have to be how my wife's boyfriend tells me how she feels about me. Absolutely nothing. But let's go back to Lamar Jackson real quick, because in 2016, in a Power 5 school against a harder schedule than Josh Allen in 2016, Lamar Jackson would have one of the greatest quarterback seasons in college football history. He led Louisville to a 9-4 record, number 21 in the country, and in 13 games he had a 56% completion percentage for 3,543 yards, 30 touchdowns to 9 interceptions, and averaged 8.7 yards per attempt, while also throwing for 272.5 yards a game. Now this is where it gets really nutty, his rushing stats. In his 2016 season, he rushed for 1,571 yards, averaged 6 yards per carry for 21 rushing touchdowns, and averaged 120 rushing yards per game to win himself the Heisman, won himself the Maxwell, and won himself the Walter Camp. By the way, this was against a harder schedule, and he played for a Power 5 team, and his team was ranked at the end of the season. Now let's compare this to Josh Allen. In 2016, Josh Allen led Wyoming to an 8-6 record. Josh Allen had a 56% completion percentage, 3,203 yards, 28 touchdowns, 15 interceptions, and averaged 8.6 yards per attempt, and averaged 228.8 passing yards per game. And also in 2016, Josh Allen would add on 523 yards rushing and 7 rushing touchdowns, averaging 37.4 yards per game. So, Josh Allen, in a worse conference, on a worse team, with an easier schedule, had less passing yards than Lamar Jackson, had less passing touchdowns than Lamar Jackson, threw more interceptions than Lamar Jackson, averaged less passing yards per game than Lamar Jackson, had less rushing yards, rushing touchdowns, was less efficient, and was basically worse at everything possible when it comes to being a quarterback, and that was just objective back then. Josh Allen was not the better college football quarterback quarterback than Lamar Jackson in 2016. And Josh Allen didn't display the pure raw talent that Lamar Jackson displayed in 2016. But maybe in 2017 he was.
Newsflash, nigga, he wasn't.
Because in 2017, Lamar Jackson would lead the Louisville Cardinals to an 8-5 record, and he'd have a 59% completion percentage for 3,660 yards, 27 passing touchdowns to 10 interceptions, averaging 8.5 yards an attempt, and also passed for 281.5 yards per game. And then let's get to his rushing stats. And in 2017, Lamar Jackson arguably had a better rushing season in totality, where he had 1,601 yards, averaged almost 7 yards per carry for 18 rushing touchdowns, and averaged 123 rushing yards per game. He placed third in the Heisman this year, losing out to Baker Mayfield and Bryce Love. And then after this season, Lamar Jackson would declare for the NFL draft. Now let's compare this to Josh Allen's final year in college football. Josh Allen in 2017 would lead Wyoming to an 8-5 record. He'd play 11 games, where he had a 56% completion percentage, 1,800 yards, 16 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions, averaging 6.7 yards an attempt. In rushing wise, he had 204 rushing yards and 5 rushing touchdowns, averaging 18.5 yards per game. So against worse competition, Josh Allen once again had less passing yards, he had less passing touchdowns, he had more interceptions, he had a lower completion percentage, and he wasn't even the better runner. So after me explaining their college careers, going through their stats, and explaining how Josh Allen was in a Power 5 school, which one do you think they asked to switch positions? Hint, hint, it was not Josh Allen. Even though he was the more developed passer than Josh Allen and showed as much, if not more, pure talent at the quarterback position than Josh Allen, scouts were still asking him to do wide receiver drills at NFL workouts, while not a single scout asked Josh Allen to move to tight end, even though he showed a lack of development as a passer compared to Lamar Jackson, and showed less raw talent while he was in college football, and was also a dual threat quarterback. Yet Lamar Jackson was seen as a risk, and Josh Allen was seen as potential. And this isn't an attack on Josh Allen, by the way. This is just an example about how the media chooses to treat black quarterbacks differently from their white counterparts. A Heisman winning quarterback was being treated like a position change athlete, not a quarterback prospect, something that historically shows up disproportionately with black quarterbacks. And this wasn't even just one guy. Even Mel Kiper got on the hypocrisy of criticizing Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson had a 57% completion percentage in college, the same as Josh Allen. Yet Allen's accuracy didn't matter for Mel Kiper Jr. as much as it affected Lamar Jackson. When confronted with that disconnect, Kiper said that Jackson leaned on more high percentage layup throws, but numbers show that Jackson had fewer throws to target standing behind the line of scrimmage and was more accurate on deep throws than Josh Allen. And there's been multiple studies you can find on this. There's one study that examined 4,745 words to describe black and white National Football League quarterbacks over a 10-year period. The data revealed that black quarterbacks were primarily described with words and phrases that emphasize their physical gifts and their lack of mental prowess. Something you can specifically see reflected on Lamar Jackson, as a lot of people were thinking his physical prowess and athleticism would be way more suited for a running back or wide receiver, hence the running back memes for almost half a decade now. And on the other hand, white quarterbacks were described as less physically gifted, but more mentally prepared for the game and less likely to make mental errors. And again, this study was over a 10-year period. There was another study done on white and black quarterbacks, and the results were white quarterbacks are average picked before black quarterbacks 2 rounds earlier, approximately 66 picks. But black quarterbacks selected in those drafts had 4 times better odds of reaching at least one Pro Bowl if they were black. And this evidence strongly suggests racial bias is blinding teams in the draft process, leading them to prefer inferior quarterbacks as long as they are not black. This isn't me making up bullshit. This is what multiple studies have concluded, and the biggest perpetrator of this effect might be Lamar Jackson's draft stock in 2018. There's also examples that were before Lamar Jackson. Warren Moon, despite an outstanding college career, being a Rose Bowl MVP, being Pac-8 Player of the Year, he was not drafted in the NFL draft in 1977, and he was asked multiple times to switch to wide receiver despite being a pass-first quarterback. It took him to dominate the Canadian Football League first at historic levels until he finally got his opportunity at the NFL, and he threw over 300 touchdown passes and was the first black quarterback in the Hall of Fame. And he would tell you himself to your face that he experienced racism as a black quarterback. Another example of the media bias against black quarterbacks is Donovan McNabb. Although McNabb was a top draft pick and a successful NFL quarterback, Rush Limbaugh, notable fucking asshole by the way, no really, I like my wife's boyfriend more than it, publicly claimed McNabb was overrated because of his race, and I quote verbatim from him, "I think what we've had here is a little social concern in the NFL. The media has been very desirous that a black quarterback do well. There's a little hope invested in McNabb, and he got a lot of credit for the performance of this team that he really didn't deserve. The defense carried this team." So just as whatever whatever Rush Limbaugh says, it usually sounds like a fucking KKK rally. But my point in all of this, what I'm trying to say is, Lamar's talent was even more apparent than Josh Allen's in college, but it got distorted and masked by racial biases for black quarterbacks. And the media contributed to him getting boxed in unfairly into a category he didn't belong in, and there is a precedent of this behavior in NFL history. With that being said, Lamar Jackson was taken with the 32nd overall pick, and Josh Allen was taken number 7 overall. On to their NFL careers. Lamar Jackson's rookie year in 2018, he started 7 games with a 6-1 record, had a completion percentage of 58%, threw for 1,201 yards, 6 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, had an 84.5 quarterback rating, and to add along with that, he had 695 rushing yards and 5 touchdowns, averaging 4.7 yards an attempt and averaging 43.4 yards per game. And with this effort in 2018, the Baltimore Ravens would also make the playoffs, going 10-6, but losing to the Los Angeles Chargers in the first round. Now let's get on to Josh Allen. In Josh Allen's rookie year in 2018, he went 5-6, started 11 games on a 52% completion percentage, 2,074 yards, 10 passing touchdowns and 12 interceptions for a passer rating of 67.9. He also tacked on 631 rushing yards and 8 touchdowns, averaging 7.1 yards an attempt. And the Bills would go 6-10, be third in the AFC East, and miss the playoffs. So far, through one season, Lamar Jackson's better. But granted, if you wanted to say Lamar Jackson was in the better situation in 2018 compared to Josh Allen in 2018 with the Buffalo Bills, I could get down with that because at the end of the day, Lamar Jackson did have the second best defense. Before talking about just offensive stats, Lamar Jackson had less interceptions, less touchdown passes, but he was more efficient when it comes to completion percentage, and he was just as good at rushing the football. Lamar Jackson in his rookie year was just a more obvious developed NFL talent out of the two. Now let's go to 2019. 2019 Lamar Jackson. Man, this nigga was cooking people, bruh. No offense, Jeffrey Dahmer. Nah, but on a real note, this nigga was so raw, it was reminding me how my wife's boyfriend treats her every night. But in 2019, Lamar Jackson would lead the Baltimore Ravens to the number 1 seed in the AFC, going 14-2, winning his division, and had a 66% completion percentage, threw for 3,127 yards for 36 touchdowns, which led the league to only 6 interceptions, on a passer rating of 113.3 and a QBR of 83.0. But also what came with this season is maybe the greatest rushing season by a quarterback in NFL history, where he had 1,206 yards on the ground, 7 touchdowns, averaging 6.9 yards per carry, and averaged 80 yards per game as a quarterback. Of course, with this tremendous season, Lamar Jackson would win NFL MVP. The Baltimore Ravens made the playoffs, got the first down bye, and then Derrick Henry fucked this dude in the ass. If you wanted to mark a day where Lamar Jackson became known as a playoff choker, it would be the day of this Tennessee Titans divisional game, because he was on the most dominant regular season team in the NFL. He was on the best offense in the NFL. No one could find answers for him, but when it came to the playoffs, he just sank. Now, like I said, I'm a fan of Lamar Jackson, but I look at everyone's resume equally, unlike Josh Allen fans. And to say this is not a mark on his legacy, I would just be wrong. Now let's see what Josh Allen was doing in 2019. In 2019, Josh Allen would lead the Buffalo Bills to a 10-6 record, making the playoffs for the Bills, and I don't even know how long up to this point. And Josh Allen would have a 58% completion percentage for 3,089 yards, 20 touchdowns to 9 interceptions, on 6.7 yards an attempt for an 85.3 rating and a 49.4 QBR. He would also tack on 510 rushing yards and 9 rushing touchdowns as well, averaging 4.7 yards an attempt. This is an improvement year by Josh Allen. Well, once again, Josh Allen in his second year compared to Lamar Jackson, he'd have less passing yards, he'd have less passing touchdowns, he'd throw more interceptions, he'd have a lower completion percentage, less rushing yards, and every efficiency metric possible, such as net yards an attempt, such as passer rating, such as QBR, Lamar Jackson had him beat. But like I said, the Bills made the playoffs, where they'd lose to the Houston Texans 22-19. And in this game, there's something I never hear brought up. The fact Josh Allen didn't do shit. He went 26 for 46 for 264 passing yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, had a 69.5 passer rating, and fumbled the ball twice. Now you might be saying Josh Allen is young, but honestly ask yourself, how much times have you heard about this choke job from Josh Allen compared to Lamar Jackson's choke job against the Titans? How the media holds these failures by these two quarterbacks is not held to the equal standard to this day. Fast forward to 2020, Lamar Jackson would start 15 games, going 11-4 with the Baltimore Ravens. They'd make the playoffs. Lamar Jackson would have a 64% completion percentage, 2,757 yards, 26 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, have a passer rating of 99.3 and a QBR of 67.3, and added on 1,005 rushing yards and 7 touchdowns, becoming the first and only quarterback to have 2 1,000-yard rushing seasons in a career. He averaged 6.3 yards an attempt and averaged 67 rushing yards per game. In the wild card, the Baltimore Baltimore Ravens would beat the Tennessee Titans. And in this game, Lamar Jackson would go 17 for 24, 179 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception on a 74.8 passer rating, 136 rushing yards, 1 touchdown. Then they'd face off against the Buffalo Bills. And to say Lamar Jackson choked wouldn't be a false statement, where he went 14 for 24, 162 yards, 0 touchdowns to 1 interception, and 1 fumble on a 61.5 abysmal passer rating. And who's the guy he played in this? Josh Allen, who with the offseason acquisition of Stephon Diggs had the best year of his career up to this point. The Buffalo Bills went 13-3. Josh Allen passed for 4,544 yards, 69% completion percentage, 37 touchdowns and 10 interceptions, and had a higher passer rating and a higher QBR than Lamar Jackson. He would also tack on 421 yards rushing and 8 touchdowns. Now, as an objective watcher of the NFL, Josh Allen's 2020 season was better than Lamar Jackson's 2020 season, and he outdueled him in the playoffs this year. With that being said, just because Josh Allen had one great year over Lamar Jackson, of the 3 they simultaneously played, that doesn't make Josh Allen the better quarterback overall. If I am better than you 2 out of 3 times, how are you going to claim that you are better? And not to mention when it comes to just individual accolades, Lamar Jackson had a first-team All-Pro, Lamar Jackson had an MVP at this point. But with that being said, Josh Allen would outduel Lamar Jackson, going 23 for 37, 260 yards, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions, 86 passer rating, to head to the AFC Championship and knocking off the Baltimore Ravens. In this AFC Championship, Josh Allen would meet his kryptonite for the first time in his career, Kansas City Chiefs. Kansas City Chiefs would beat him 38-24. Josh Allen would go 28 for 48, 287 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 80 passer rating. In a good game, but it wasn't enough to get done against Mahomes, who would go 29 for 38, 325 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and had a 127.6 passer rating. So let's get into 2021. And now in 2021, Lamar Jackson would miss 5 games. He'd go 7-5, have a 64% completion percentage, 2,882 yards, 16 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, on a passer rating of 87, on a QBR of 56. Lamar Jackson would also rush for 767 yards and 2 touchdowns, averaging 5.8 yards an attempt and 63.9 rushing yards per game, and arguably his worst year of his career. And the Baltimore Ravens would miss the playoffs, only going 1-3 without Lamar Jackson on the football field. In 2020, Josh Allen would go 11-6, leading the Bills to the playoffs on a 63% completion percentage, 4,407 yards, 36 passing touchdowns with 15 interceptions, averaging 6.8 yards per attempt on a 92 passer rating and a 66 QBR. Josh Allen would also rush for 763 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 6.3 yards an attempt. Now through 2021, the argument of Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen is a decent debate. Now if we're going by efficiency, it's objectively Lamar Jackson. Higher completion percentage, he turns the ball over less, and if you combine it with all the yards he gets while rushing efficiency wise, but in totality, and if you look at accolades and what they got individually as players, you would side with Lamar Jackson. If we're looking at playoff performance, if we're looking at consistency as in availability, you could go Josh Allen as well. Like I said, the Buffalo Bills went 11-6 and made the playoff, where they demolished the New England Patriots in the first round, 47-17, and Josh Allen having an historic 21 for 25 performance, 308 yards, 5 touchdowns to 0 picks to send the New England Patriots packing home. And then arguably the greatest playoff game in NFL history happened. Even with Josh Allen going 27 for 37, 329 yards, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, he still lost in overtime to the Kansas City Chiefs 36-42, to a legendary Patrick Mahomes performance where he went 33 for 44, 378 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, in a 13-second drive to tie the game. Now after this season, the debate of Josh Allen versus Lamar Jackson got way more legitimate. Like I said, if you said Josh Allen was better, if we're going off playoff performance, if we're going off the past 2 seasons, you wouldn't be wrong by no means. And not to mention, injury for Lamar Jackson is really taking down his stats, is taking down his performance, and is taking down his team overall. And this trend will continue into the next season, 2022. Lamar Jackson this season would only play 12 games, missing 5 again. And in these 12 games, he threw 17 passing touchdowns, had a 62% completion percentage for 2,242 yards to 7 interceptions, averaged 6.9 yards an attempt, had a passer rating of 91.1 and a QBR of 61.1. He would also tack on 764 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns, averaging 6.8 yards an attempt and 63.7 yards per game. Baltimore Ravens would go 10-7, going 2-3 without Lamar Jackson, make the playoffs, where they'd lose in the first round to the Cincinnati Bengals, the eventual AFC champions, 17-24. In this game, Lamar Jackson didn't even play. He was injured once again, which is a running theme through this phase of his career, and the Ravens were sent home. Now on to Josh Allen. In 2022, he played 16 games, had a 63% completion percentage, 4,200 yards, 35 touchdowns to 14 interceptions, averaged 7.6 yards an attempt, 96 passer rating, and 73 QBR. By the way, in these last 3 seasons, he placed top 5 in interceptions in the NFL. But with that being said, he'd place 3rd in MVP, and he'd be a consensus top 3, top 5 quarterback in the league. And then the playoffs came. In the wild card, the Buffalo Bills would beat the Miami Dolphins, inching them out 34-31. Josh Allen would go for 23 for 39, 352 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions on a 93 passer rating, and had 3 fumbles this game, and lost one of them, making his turnovers in total 3 this game, almost costing his team 5 turnovers in total. Up to this point, this was his worst playoff performance of his career. In the next round, they lose to the Cincinnati Bengals, getting dominated 27-10. Against the eventual AFC champions in the Bengals, Josh Allen would go for 25 for 42, 264 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception, abysmal 68 passer rating, and the Bills would be sent home. Now in these playoffs, Josh Allen went 3 touchdowns for 4 turnovers in total, and tacked on 1 rushing touchdown, with a 68 passer rating against the Bengals. This playoff run wasn't good for Josh Allen, but how much times do you hear about Josh Allen's failures in the 2022 playoffs compared to Lamar Jackson faking an injury, lying to the staff saying he has cramps when he actually needs to poo, which all of those are all conspiracy theories against Lamar Jackson perpetuated by the media, social media, and content creators trying to get a clip. You hear about those way more than if Josh Allen played bad, or if Josh Allen had a bad playoff run. Now you could tell me, these are baseless claims, why even pay attention to them? And what I'd respond to you with is, just because you ignore people who have influence, just because you ignore bad sports take, doesn't mean the influence of the sports take doesn't exist on the general public and how they view these players. Simply put, what I'm trying to say is, the media bias against Lamar Jackson is still real, because why do injuries, something Lamar Jackson has no control over, equivalent more than Josh Allen playing bad? The evidence being the lack of talk about this 2022 playoff failure by Josh Allen, something Josh Allen does have control over, and the abundance of talk about the conspiracy theory of Lamar Jackson faking multiple injuries. Doesn't make sense, and it's another media hypocrisy. This brings us to 2023, where Lamar Jackson led the Baltimore Ravens to a 13-3 record, the first time in almost 3 years he was completely healthy for the entirety of the regular season, and he'd have a 67% completion percentage, 3,778 yards, 24 passing touchdowns to 7 interceptions, on a 102 passer rating, and a QBR of 65.4. He would add on 821 rushing yards and 5 rushing touchdowns. And his efficiency, and the fact he was the best player on the best team, and the fact MVP candidates were not good this year, and his low turnover percentage gave him the 2023 MVP, gave him first team All-Pro honors, the second overall first team All-Pro, and second MVP of his career. Something Josh Allen up to this point did not accomplish one time. And in the first round bye in the divisional round, the Ravens would beat the Houston Texans 34-10. Lamar Jackson this game would go 16 for 22, 152 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions on a 121 passer rating. Could also rush for 100 yards on the ground and 2 rushing touchdowns added on to this. And then the next week against the Kansas City Chiefs, aka Josh Allen repellent and Lamar Jackson repellent, the number 1 seed Baltimore Ravens would lose to the Kansas City Chiefs. Lamar Jackson would go 20 for 37, 272 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception on a 75 passer rating, and gave up 1 fumble. So in this postseason, Lamar Jackson had 5 touchdowns, 2 turnovers, and you hear about the failures of 2023 Lamar Jackson in the playoffs way more than 2022 Josh Allen, even though Josh Allen had 4 touchdowns to 4 turnovers in that playoff run. Again, showing media bias and showing how scrutinized Lamar Jackson has been during his whole career. Now let's get back to Josh Allen. 2023, the Buffalo Bills went 11-6, made the playoffs. Josh Allen had 66.5% completion percentage, 4,306 passing yards, 29 touchdowns to 18 interceptions, leading the league in interceptions this year, on 7.4 yards an attempt, at a 92.2 passer rating and a 70.3 quarterback rating. Also this year, he would have 524 rushing yards and 15 rushing touchdowns, averaging 4.7 yards an attempt. Josh Allen would also place in MVP voting, but the fact he had 20 plus turnovers basically costed him the MVP. And if you haven't been keeping track, Josh Allen has 0 MVPs. He was never considered the best quarterback in football, having 0 first team All-Pros. He has 0 Super Bowl wins. He has admittedly better playoff stats than Lamar Jackson, but when it comes to regular season, when Lamar's healthy, he posts better stats. He's more efficient. He doesn't turn the ball over. He's a better runner of the football. And when even Lamar Jackson's healthy, healthy, he's the better passer of the football as well. And he has 2 first-team All-Pros, being considered the best quarterback in the league in multiple seasons. And hell, he has 2 MVPs, being considered the best player in the league for multiple seasons. And the only thing Josh Allen really has over him is better playoff performances. And Josh Allen has also crafted himself in the playoffs, and they both still have 0 Super Bowls. So he has better playoff performance with the same amount of success. That's the only thing he's done better than him up to this point. But the Buffalo Bills would beat the Pittsburgh Steelers in the wild card 31-17. Josh Allen would go 21 for 30, 203 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions on 121 passer rating, 74 rushing yards and 1 touchdown, and a great performance by him. But in the AFC divisional round game, the Josh Allen repellent striked again. The Chiefs would win 27-24. Against Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen would go 26 for 39, 186 yards, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions, 86 passer rating, and would fumble the ball once. Wasn't a bad performance by Josh Allen, but if he could have played any better, I'm sure the Buffalo Bills would have won this game. I think that goes for both of them this season. If they played any better in the playoffs, they could have beat the Kansas City Chiefs. And then we get to the 2024 season. The most painstakingly dishonest, stupid, dumb MVP vote I've ever seen, which has inspired me and a bunch of other people to make commentaries about how we treat Josh Allen compared to how we treat Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson in 2024 would have one of the greatest quarterback years of all time. He would lead the Ravens to a 12-5 record, being a top 2 seed in the AFC. He would pass for 4,172 yards, passing for 41 touchdowns to 4 interceptions, and having the 6th greatest touchdown to interception ratio in an NFL season, having arguably one of the most efficient modern day NFL seasons of all time, averaging 8.8 yards per attempt, averaging 10.15 air yards per attempt, having 119 passer rating with a 74.8 QBR, and averaging 8.9 net yards per attempt, dominating advanced stats, base stats in every statistical category possible. He would also tack on 915 rushing yards, 4 touchdowns, averaging 53.8 rushing yards per game, and having 6.6 yards an attempt. This is one of the greatest quarterback seasons of all time. Lamar Jackson would make first team All-Pro, but he didn't win MVP. Why? Because of fucking hypothetical. People were saying the Ravens without Lamar Jackson would be better than Josh Allen without the Bills. What kind of fucking metric is that, my nigga? Y'all really just gaslighted voters into believing a hypothetical to decide the league MVP. You might say it's not a hypothetical, but my nigga, the Ravens are 4-10 when Lamar Jackson is not their starting quarterback since he was named the starter in 2019, bro. This makes no sense. This is a literal what if, my nigga. Why is it a what if? I'll explain now. Josh Allen in 2024 would lead the Bills to a 13-4 record. He would have 3,731 passing yards, 28 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, averaged 7 yards an attempt, had a passer rating of 101.4, 74.8 QBR, and had rushing totals of 531 rushing yards and 12 rushing touchdowns. And he wouldn't be named the best quarterback in the league. He would get second team All-Pro after Lamar Jackson, but he would be named league MVP. This nigga Josh Allen had more attempts, had less passing yards, had less passing touchdowns, had more interceptions, had less rushing yards, was less efficient, had a worse completion percentage, had less total touchdowns, but they gave him MVP off of fucking hypothetical! Especially with hindsight being 2020, you see how abysmal the Baltimore Ravens were without Lamar Jackson. And then the second he came back, they won 6 games in a row and were 1 game away from a playoff appearance. You see why that doesn't fucking make sense. And if you think Josh Allen still deserved the MVP, I don't know what to tell you. You are actively dumb. You are actively not using your brain. And there's really no reason you should have won this, but I digress. Let's get into the playoffs. In the wild card, the Baltimore Ravens would play the Pittsburgh Steelers, where they'd dominate them 28-14. Lamar Jackson went 16 for 21, 175 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions on 132 passer rating, and also rushed for 81 yards. And then the next week, they'd meet the Buffalo Bills, where they would lose. The Buffalo Bills would sneak out of this game with a 27-25 win on a Mark Andrews terrible drop in the end zone. Lamar Jackson would go 18 for 25, 254 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 114 passer rating, and would rush for 39 yards. While Josh Allen would go 16 for 22, 127 yards, 0 touchdowns, touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 86 passer rating, 20 rushing yards, and 2 rushing touchdowns. Both quarterbacks played well. Fate had other things in plan, and the Buffalo Bills won this game. Fate also decided, do you know it'd be a big fuck you if we just made you guys lose to the Chiefs anyways? And just like clockwork, the Buffalo Bills lost to the Kansas City Chiefs for the 4th time. And in this game, Josh Allen would go 22 for 34, 237 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 104 passer rating, but he would fumble the ball 3 times. But luckily enough, he would have 0 fumbles lost. That didn't matter because the Chiefs will win 32-29. Now that leads to this year. Lamar Jackson this season will go 2,549 yards, 21 touchdowns to 7 interceptions, on 103 passer rating and a 62.7 QBR. Rushing wise, he'd have 349 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns on 5.2 yards an attempt and 26 yards per game. But like I said, the Baltimore Ravens would miss the playoffs. But every year Lamar Jackson plays the full season, they have yet to miss the playoffs. And after robbing Lamar Jackson of the MVP in 2025, Josh Allen would go 12-5 with the Buffalo Bills, making the playoffs, having a 69.3 completion percentage, 3,668 passing yards, 25 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, averaging 8 yards an attempt, 102 passer rating, and a 65.3 QBR to tack on 579 rushing yards and 14 rushing touchdowns. Now tell me, should that win MVP over Matthew Stafford? Because Matthew Stafford has Sean McVay and Puka Nacua. No, the fuck it shouldn't, and you'd be stupid if you implied that. But that being said, the Buffalo Bills did make the playoffs. They'd win 27-24 against Jacksonville. Josh Allen going 28 for 35, 273 yards, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions, 108 passer rating, and having 2 rushing touchdowns. And then last week against the Denver Broncos, Josh Allen would lose the game 30-33. His team made enough plays for them to win the game, and Josh Allen would go 25 for 39, 283 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 90 passer rating, 66 rushing yards, and fumbling the ball 3 times and losing 2 of them. And this is a little bit why I made this video, because as I look on mainstream media, I see dumbass sports talking heads like Dan Orlovsky or Rex Ryan not giving Josh Allen the belt the way they would have given Lamar Jackson for this kind of performance. And that irks me, because it's just another example about how the media treats Josh Allen compared to Lamar Jackson. And in conclusion, if you ask my opinion about who's better out of the two of Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, I would have to hand it to Lamar Jackson, as you could probably tell from the start. Simply put, while Josh Allen is a better playoff performer, having better stats in the playoffs, he has the same amount of success as Lamar Jackson. But also, I do value playoff success and playoff stats when it comes to all-time quarterback rankings. But I don't think Josh Allen being marginally better in the playoffs makes up for the fact that Josh Allen has never been considered the best quarterback in the league, which is backed up by 0 first-team All-Pros compared to Lamar Jackson's 3, Lamar Jackson's 2 MVPs to Josh Allen's 1, and the fact in every efficiency metric possible, Lamar Jackson is better. When it comes to winning games, Lamar Jackson is better. When it comes to running the football, Lamar Jackson is better. When Lamar Jackson is healthy and plays the full season, he is also the better passer than Josh Allen. But that's my opinion. If you think Josh Allen is better, that's completely reasonable. But what isn't reasonable is how the media treats both of these quarterbacks so differently that you would think Lamar Jackson's resume was horrible compared to Josh Allen. With that being said, Patrick Mahomes owns both of them. Peace.